Thank you. Well, thank you. Always good to be here at ICFO. Chris, thank you for your gracious invitation, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And today I'm going to speak on something Chris had gotten back to me on an article I'd written. It's about looking at things inside a company, but in particular R&D know-how. And I think it's something that every company here spends money on, some more than others, and it's a big investment. But today what I want to talk about is looking at that investment as more than just a capital expenditure, because hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars are spent on R&D. And for many businesses, it becomes just that, an expenditure that is going toward, hopefully, the successful development of a product or a technology, which will then be marketed into the product and make money. But what's often overlooked is that this investment is also intellectual property. It's actually an asset of the company. And right now, many companies and accounting firms are even looking at the fact that this sometimes cost is really an asset and should be carried on the books as an asset. So what I'm going to talk about then is how you take this asset and turn it into income, get a return on it beyond just a product or your service or your technology in the market. So what we'll cover today is what is R&D IP, why it's valuable, and how to license it. So for those who may not have met me before, I'm president and CEO of Licensing Consulting Group. What I specialize in is consulting and strategy, working with companies that have IP and figuring out how to manage, monetize, and leverage those assets, and really use them, because there's more you can do with them than just getting a patent, trademark, copyright, putting it on the shelf and saying, that's it, it's just to keep me secure. Really, there is a lot more. And as Chris had mentioned early on, there's things that you can do with it in terms of generating revenue, in terms of financing, in terms of building out your business in many ways and using it to really leverage and expand your business. In addition to working on the strategy and consulting side, IP audits and due diligence, again, something that I encourage every company to do is to really take an inventory of your IP. Many times you have a lot inside, particularly as I'm going to talk about R&D, that has to do with actually being an IP asset and making sure that you've got that captured. And then the third piece that I work with clients on is licensing, both in and out, managing those programs. That's really the money-making side of what the IP can do, is using licensing as that tool to create that income. So I work with all types of companies, and in most cases, in the clients that I work with, all of them have some level of R&D know-how. And in many cases, when it's licensing out, one case in particular on the medtech and oral healthcare product I'm working on now, this becomes a big part of the licensing deal that we're working on. It's a very large pharmaceutical company that's very interested in it, but as part of that licensing deal, they want that know-how. They need to understand how they created it, where they got the information from, how they developed it, and how to apply it in their testing and evaluation, as well as their use for it. But in every case, whether it's health tech, game tech, ed tech, there's always a piece of know-how. A lot of that know-how is often driven by R&D, and today we're going to talk about how you capitalize on that R&D. So all the businesses here, every business here, even investing businesses, businesses that have a technology, everybody has got know-how. And that know-how is encapsulated as a method, a formula, a process, a system, something. Also, it's captured under a trade secret. It's a confidentiality of that information, and it gives you a competitive advantage. Many companies today are built on know-how, such as Amazon's one-click sales, Google's algorithm. These are all forms of trade secrets and know-hows, and they're kept confidential, but they're also extremely valuable IP that can be monetized through licensing. And R&D IP has a long history. It goes way back to some of our earliest inventors. One such is Goodyear, when he invented actually the process, the manufacturing process for vulcanized rubber, which led to the tires that we use today. This was R&D IP, and in this case, many pieces of R&D sometimes are captured as a patent coupled with this know-how. But part of his invention, of course, was the know-how that went behind the patent to create that vulcanized rubber manufacturing process. So what R&D know-how is it's repetitive R&D. You do things inside of your companies in developing your products, your technologies, to try and create successful versions of them, and hopefully they will be successful. In many cases, there's a lot of repetitive tasks that are done to achieve this end solution. And these tasks, these processes which you use, may not only have application to your, whatever it is, technology or your product, but others may be able to use it. And that's where the value comes in for this, is what you can do with that R&D know-how, especially as applies to others using it. So R&D know-how is everything from product development, manufacturing, ingredients, software, apps. All of these things are know-how, that you know how to do something, you've perfected some technology, and you're able to apply that know-how in other industries or to other types of products. And so the value of that R&D, why is it valuable? Well, first of all, and I'm sure many of you may have experienced this, R&D can be costly. Internal R&D can be costly, and it's not always successful. Sometimes it can move quickly, other times it turns into a black hole. But what if there was an R&D process out there that was applicable to what you did, that you knew worked and could deliver the end result? That's proven R&D. That means that you could acquire this know-how, this R&D know-how, and have a much higher level of assurance that you'd be able to successfully develop your product or technology, which means less development time, which means you're going to get to the market quicker. And more importantly, and one of the most valuable aspects of R&D know-how is avoiding blind alleys, knowing what doesn't work. Because there's many industries, such as the drug industry, where you've got to go through a lot of permeations, a lot of iterations, a lot of trial and error to figure out what doesn't work, often costing you a lot more money. So these are the big reasons why R&D know-how is so valuable. So how is it created? Well, what you do in your know-how is basically documented, whether it's a process, a manufacturing assembly, you put it together somehow and they're able to document it. Then you secure it. As I said, some pieces may have patents, other are trade secrets and confidential information, but it's yours and it's kept confidential. And the third part is it's packaged, and that's often the trick. How do you package it up and let others use it? And that's what I'm going to show you or talk about, touch on here in a little bit. And with know-how IP, just like other forms of IP, you can be licensed. There's three main ways you can license it, either exclusively, collaboratively, or on a component basis. Most licenses do overlap from the standpoint of collaboration, because the nature of R&D IP is one that you have to provide some hands-on assistance, technical know-how, things like that. So when you get paid on know-how, R&D know-how, often, in most cases, it's tied to milestones or sales. It can be fixed percent, user-based, and this is the way that it's becoming more and more prevalent in the industry to be looking at these R&D IP as a way to be able to tie into the sales or the success of the companies using this IP in the market. And in some cases, there's even a proportion of the profit that can be calculated as a means of licensing the IP. So some examples of what R&D know-how can be licensed: manufacturing process. In this case, a university in Australia had created a new manufacturing process for carbon fiber manufacturing. Carbon fiber, very firm fiber, lightweight, being used in a lot of applications, from automobiles to bicycles to home appliances. In this case, the company acquired the exclusive rights to it under a 20-year license because they had a patent, because it's the fastest production process out here, and it saves 75% of the energy, and it takes 75% less equipment. Again, the value here is because it's able to deliver something in the market faster, at a lower cost, and in less time. Another type of R&D IP, production technology. In this case, this example here is Invista, who takes their production technology that they've invested millions in for the manufacture of high-quality polyester, spandex, and nylon. Now, many companies use these materials, but for a lot of companies, they have to figure out how to make the material successfully in order to be able to use it in their products. So these are the processes, the manufacturing technologies they license to it. and they license it across various industries, automotive, apparel, home, wherever these types of fibers are needed. They even take it one step further, and I'll show you that here in a minute, where they can take the final product from their manufacturing, these fibers, and be able to then brand those and use those to license them out as a component inside of other people's products and technologies. The next type of R&D IP that can be licensed out are design platforms. These are platforms that are used to create or design products or technologies. In this case, this example is radio frequency front end filter designs for handsets, mobile phones. Now what happens inside the mobile phones is there are a lot of components, and each of these components run on frequencies, but they have to get filtered, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to operate inside the phone. So many of these component manufacturers have to design and develop and build these filters. That's where this company comes in. Rather than trying to make all the filters, they license out their design platform that enables these companies, these component manufacturers, to figure out what filters they need to build in to their components in order for them to operate successfully inside of mobile phones. And for drug development, R&D IP is extremely important and extremely valued. Many drugs today, the pharmaceutical industry has been moving away from doing a lot of their own internal R&D. It's very cost intensive, very expensive, and what's been happening is smaller companies are developing research platforms. And when they develop these drugs, they need to use things to prove out the drugs, figure out how to deliver them, whether it's antibodies, whether it's delivery systems, compounds, agents. All of these things have to be used in drug delivery. And for many companies who have created the platforms, they've patented the antibodies, they've patented the delivery systems, but they've also got the platforms that drug manufacturers or inventors can come in and use their platforms to prove out their drugs. And in this case, when they do prove it out, what happens is they license then not only the rights to use the platform, but they're going to be paying royalties on future sales of those products as well. And then finally, ingredient and component R&D. This is what I had mentioned earlier on. This is where companies who create technologies or ingredients or components that must be used inside other products, they license them out and brand them in many cases. One of the most famous is Intel Inside. And you've heard the ads. Every computer you see has got a little sticker. If it uses Intel, it says Intel Inside. Intel makes computer chips. They're not on the outside. But they've used an ingredient or a component branding strategy to build one of the biggest companies in the world. And what happens is many other companies have done the same thing, such as Gore-Tex and other 3M. These are companies that have used their R&D, have created components and ingredients that are important to other products, license them out to other companies, and then brand them so that they become well known in the marketplace. They add value and quality to these products and assure consumers and users, business customers, that these products, technologies, and services are going to be of the best quality. So in wrapping it up, in looking at your R&D, some of the keys to think about it. If you got platforms, processes, ingredients, designs, all of these things, if they can be replicated, if their know-how and trade secrets, and if they're repeatable, if they can be used by other companies, if they can deliver other products or technology, they have value. You bundle it up, you document it, you package it up into something that's transferable, and by that it means either something that somebody can sign on and use. You can go and build it and they can use it. They can acquire it from you and use it, whatever the case is, and it can be licensed to them exclusively, non-exclusively, as a component inside or as a collaboration in which you help them R&D it, and then once they launch it into the market, you participate by getting licensing revenues from them in the form of royalties. So I thank you for your time. If you've got any information or any questions, I'd love to take those questions. If you're interested, I have a newsletter you can sign up. It comes out about every 2 weeks, talks about different aspects of licensing. So I thank you very much. Any questions?